Story 1. I am somehow less interested in the weight and convolutions of Einstein's brain than in the near certainty that people of equal talent have lived and died in cotton fields and sweatshops. Stephen Jay Gould. Story 2. My grandpa lived in the United States for almost 20 years and fell in love with NASCAR. We were watching it once when I was a kid, and I just couldn't get into it. I called it boring, and he said, "Every sport is boring to watch if you don't understand the finesse and subtleties of that sport. Don't judge people or call them boring because they watch something you don't understand. Be open-minded and curious to learn why they love it instead." It's a quote that I sort of paraphrased, but I remember his point very well, and I have always tried to be open-minded to things I don't initially understand. Story 3. Do you even know how smart I am in Spanish? Gloria from Modern Family. It stuck with me because I think so many people do actually treat non-native speakers of English as if they are stupid. Story 4. A child should not be denied a balloon just because an adult knows that sooner or later it will burst. I read this recently and felt like it's for me. Many times I just leave, believing it's not going to work or the outcome might not be worth it. Most of the time I end up being right, but still, I regret not taking one more step towards what I want. Story 5. Don't let yesterday take up too much of today. Honestly, I think we should apply this in real life. Sometimes we waste so much time in the past that we forget our future is in our hands too. Story 6. There will be a time when you pick up your child for the last time, and when you do it, you won't know that it will be the last time. There are so many things that I put off until tomorrow because I had something else to do. When I was ready to finally do those things, it was too late. It can apply to so many small life events that seem so inconsequential in the moment but make the memories that are worth living. But you can't go back in time. The next time your puppy looks at you because you are having a lazy day and they want to play fetch, or your kid wants to have a Nerf battle, or your significant other wants to go for a walk, and your first reaction is, "Nah, today is a lazy day." Will that lazy day be something you look back on fondly in 5 years? 10 years? Will it bring a smile to your face just thinking about it? Story 7. Not all who wander are lost. It stuck with me because it reminds me that taking your time and exploring different paths is okay, even if it feels uncertain. You don't always need a clear destination to be on the right journey. Story 8. Do not judge a person until you have walked a mile in their shoes. That way, when you do judge them, you will be a mile away and you will have their shoes. Heard that quote as a kid and thought it was hilarious. Could not tell you where, but I have never forgotten it. I still use it in conversations from time to time 20 years later. Story 9. Comparison is the thief of joy. In other words, you'll be miserable if you constantly compare what you have to others. There will always be some with more than you. This is irrelevant and should not factor into whether you are content with yourself and your life. Story 10. I have two to give. A man found an eagle's egg and put it in a nest of a barnyard hen. The eaglet hatched with the brood of chickens and grew up with them. All his life, the eagle did what the barnyard chicks did, thinking he was a barnyard chicken. He scratched the earth for worms and insects. He clucked and cackled. And he would thrash his wings and fly a few feet into the air. Years passed, and the eagle grew very old. One day, he saw a magnificent bird above him in the cloudless sky. It glided in graceful majesty among the powerful wind currents, with scarcely a beat of its strong golden wings. The old eagle looked up in awe. "Who's that?" he asked. "That's the eagle, the king of the birds," said his neighbor. "He belongs to the sky. We belong to the earth, we're chickens." So the eagle lived and died a chicken, for that's what he thought he was. Anthony de Mello, Song of the Bird. My therapist used to operate a floor of a hospital. When he hired new staff, he asked them all this question. Would you rather break your arm or have someone you love die? Everyone obviously said they'd rather break their arm. Then he said, "My point is, don't come here with the belief that emotional pain is not real pain." Reddit comment. Story 11. Not everything is a lesson. Sometimes you just fail. We become obsessed with looking for the meanings in everything, and sometimes we need to accept that there's not some ulterior motive from the universe or divine intervention. I think there's a type of freedom in that, accepting things as they are and not reading into everything that happens or doesn't. Check out Existentialism, Nihilism, Absurdism. Story 12. Keep moving forward. Don Draper to Peggy Olson in Mad Men. When I feel stuck, I mutter it to myself. It worked so well I told it to my son when he was battling cancer. He told me that he repeated it often. He won his war. That's my why. Story 13. My grandpa told me, no matter how badly a person has treated you, still be a kind person. I take that with me every day I work. He was the most kind and compassionate man I know. Story 14. The Dalai Lama, when asked what surprised him most about humanity, answered, man, because he sacrifices his health in order to make money. Then he sacrifices money to recuperate his health. And then he is so anxious about the future that he does not enjoy the present, the result being that he does not live in the present or the future. He lives as if he is never going to die, then dies having never really lived. Story 15. The one who plants trees, knowing that he will never sit in their shade, has at least started to understand the meaning of life. Rabindranath Tagore. Story 16. I am going to make everything around me beautiful. That will be my life. Elsie de Wolfe. I never found a career ambition. This quote inspires me to be okay with that. Story 17. There's lots of quotes that I like. Language is how we outsmarted plants. A chicken is just an egg's way of making more eggs. One of the hallmarks of a saint is humility. Someone with true humility would consider not being a saint. It is our choices that show us what we truly are, far more than our abilities. Have you any idea how much tyrants fear the people they oppress? All of them realize that one day, amongst their many victims, there is sure to be one that rises against them and strikes back. Mathematical proofs are exhaustive lists of examples. Story 18. Living with suicidal thoughts is still living from some mental health ad. The reason that has stuck with me is the sheer stupidity of that sentence, when those same thoughts can be literally torture. Story 19. I distrust those people who know so well what God wants them to do because I notice it always coincides with their own desires. Susan B. Anthony. Story 20. One hamburger won't make you fat, just like one salad won't make you skinny. It's helped me to learn not to beat myself up so much if I have something I probably shouldn't on my diet. Just get back up and try again tomorrow. Story 21. There are billions and billions of dollars out there, but there is only one of you. Why would you trade your one valuable life for something as common as money? It was a line from a play I saw as a kid, and it has stuck with me for years. I cannot remember what the play was called now. It has been bugging me for ages. Story 22. We must fight against the spirit of unconscious cruelty with which we treat the animals. Animals suffer as much as we do. True humanity does not allow us to impose such suffering on them. It is our duty to make the whole world recognize it. Until we extend our circle of compassion to all living things, humanity will not find peace. Albert Schweitzer. Story 23. Living well is the best revenge. It's a George Herbert quote, but it stuck with me after hearing it come out of my grandmother's mouth. I hadn't liked the quote when I first heard it. It seemed too passive, too resigned. When she said it, though, the quote took on a new meaning to me. She's a woman who fled the Nazis as a refugee and who lost her father in the Holocaust. She went from being from a fairly wealthy family in Germany to living in near poverty in the United States, where her schoolmates picked on her for being unable to speak English. She had so much taken away from her at such a young age, to a degree that might have permanently demoralized a young kid. But not her. She was fiercely independent at a time when that wasn't really accepted for women. She got a college degree, married a man who genuinely saw her as his equal, and let nobody speak down to her. When she had children, there was still a strong cultural expectation that women would stop working at that point and become homemakers. She got a master's degree and a promotion. She fought tooth and nail for civil rights, women's rights, and elder rights because she deeply understood what it meant to have your rights taken away. She adopted 2 kids when they needed help and doubled the size of a family that's still extremely tight-knit decades later. She traveled the world because she wanted to understand how all people lived and came back cherishing each place she went to. Oh, and between all of that, she somehow got bored and learned to fly planes. Her earliest memories were being told by a government that hated her that she would be allowed no family, no rights, no freedoms, no joy, and no life. She proved them wrong on every possible front. Hearing that quote from her made me realize living well, if you do it right, isn't passive. It isn't just indulging in good things and trying to forget injustice. Living well can be an act of rebellion and restoration as potent as any other. Story 24. From an old boss who was in the same field, I wanted to start my business in don't buy anything unless you can afford 3. It really helped me put into perspective buying shiny new toys as a photographer and taught me to use what I already had. Story 25. I'm sorry to break the rule of the question, but I have 2. Don't set yourself on fire to keep others warm. I know this one is popular online, but it actually helped me change as a person. It is something that I said to myself to get me through tough times when I decided to stop being a doormat to others and put my own well-being first. Don't keep being sorry. Say sorry once and move on. This is a Homer Simpson quote. The first time I read it, I cried. It made me realize I've carried guilt about mistakes my entire life, and that it was hurting me to keep beating myself up. Since then, anytime I mess up and recognize it, I apologize, think this quote to myself, and let it go. Story 26. If the emperor says it's night at noon, the wise man says, behold, the moon. I know it's an old one, but I can't for the life of me find the source now. It might be that I've paraphrased a little, but that's the gist of it. Story 27. There's no such thing as bad weather, just poor clothing choices. As someone who likes to be outside, bike ride, and do other things, this has helped me out more than anything. Story 28. When I got sober and wanted a drink, my dad said, "And then what?" At first, I didn't quite understand what he meant, but now I use that quote not to drink. For me, it's never just one drink. It ends in a blackout and me destroying relationships and other aspects of my life. So now, anytime I want to drink, I hear my dad say, "And then what?" Keeps me sober. Story 29. Go placidly amid the noise and haste, and remember what peace there may be in silence. As far as possible, without surrender, be on good terms with all persons. Speak your truth quietly and clearly, and listen to others, even to the dull and ignorant. They too have their story. Avoid loud and aggressive persons. They are vexatious to the spirit. If you compare yourself with others, you may become vain or bitter, for always there will be greater and lesser persons than yourself. Enjoy your achievements as well as your plans. Keep interested in your own career, however humble. It is a real possession in the changing fortunes of time. Exercise caution in your business affairs, for the world is full of trickery. But let this not blind you to what virtue there is. Many persons strive for high ideals, and everywhere life is full of heroism. Be yourself. Especially do not feign affection. Neither be cynical about love, for in the face of all aridity and disenchantment, it is as perennial as the grass. Take kindly the counsel of the years, gracefully surrendering the things of youth. Nurture strength of spirit to shield yourself in sudden misfortune. But do not distress yourself with dark imaginings. Many fears are born of fatigue and loneliness. Beyond a wholesome discipline, be gentle with yourself. You are a child of the universe no less than the trees and the stars. You have a right to be here. And whether or not it is clear to you, no doubt the universe is unfolding as it should. Therefore, be at peace with God, whatever you conceive him to be, and whatever your labors and aspirations. In the noisy confusion of life, keep peace in your soul. With all its sham, drudgery, and broken dreams, it is still a beautiful world. Be cheerful. Strive to be happy. Story 30. There is no greater sorrow than to recall, in times of misery, the times when we were happy. Dante Alighieri. I felt this every single day for the last 2 years and 10 months. Story 31. Think about how stupid the average person is. Then realize half of everyone is even stupider than that. George Carlin. It really gave me perspective on humanity as a whole. I may have been overly idealistic in my youth in how we were progressing as a species. But with each passing year, George Carlin's insights seem to resonate more and more. Story 32. It is impossible to live a full life while crammed into just 10% of your heart. All emotions are a part of us, and trying to deny the ones we don't want makes it harder to appreciate and enjoy the ones we do want. Story 33. From an obscure book called Slaughtermatic by Steve Aylett. A genius is like a sniper. It's not enough to be one. You have to be one at something. It stuck with me because it's so clever, funny, and true. Story 34. It is possible to commit no mistakes and still lose. That is not a weakness. That is life. Quote by the character of Captain Jean-Luc Picard, portrayed by Patrick Stewart, in Star Trek: The Next Generation. Such a silly source for such a profound quote. People, especially Americans, often adhere to the idea that if you work hard and do everything right, you will be successful. But as life shows us, that is not always the case. Sometimes even our best efforts are not enough. Story 35. Most people overestimate what they can do in 1 year and underestimate what they can do in 10 years. Provides a bigger picture, idea of compounding, correlating idea of success is not overnight, rather overnights. And those who were seen dancing were thought to be insane by those who could not hear the music. How unique we all are and how our preferences are bound to differ.